Well, good morning, everybody. It's September 2nd, early fall here. I thought I'd start the day by showing you how the girls have grown. Then I'll give you a little tour around what's left of the gardens and show you some of the progress in the new hoop house. 2 more months and I should be getting eggs from these ladies. This is inside of my small greenhouse, the one that I've had for probably 20 years. I want to show you the progress on my Tigger melons. I have two, and I think they're both roughly the same size. Put a hand over there to give you an idea. They're not terribly big, but I don't think they're supposed to be terribly big even when they're full grown, but hoping that the little greenhouse will keep it warm enough that I'll at least see one ripen. I've been getting ripe tomatoes in this little greenhouse for probably 3 weeks now, I guess. Had lots of them. Still lots of green ones and tomatoes ripening. It's hard to keep up with them all, but now with the tomatoes also starting to ripen out in the hoop house, I guess I'm going to soon have to think about canning some. Also saving some seeds for my seed exchange, which I will do a video on later this fall when it's ready to launch. These are my potatoes in smart pots. The variety is Irish cobbler. I emptied one the other day, and I don't know if I'll ever do a reveal video unless I find something better when I empty the next one. They were great looking vines all summer. They bloomed, they grew really well, and now of course the end of season they're dying back, but from one of these pots I didn't get very many potatoes. Might have been just that one, but when I get around to emptying some more, I guess we'll know more about it. But it was kind of disappointing. I'm thinking I may grow them in the ground next year if that's all I'm going to get out of the pots. But anyway, later on this fall, perhaps I'll show you what's in some of them. This is the garden that's behind fencing so that the bunny rabbits can't get at it. But all of the cabbages have been harvested. I brought them in before Hurricane Irene. Not that I was concerned about wind, but with heavy rain this time of year, cabbages do try to take in all that moisture. They swell up and burst. I didn't want that to happen, so I have them in the basement. They'll be turned into sauerkraut soon. These are just a few of the broccoli plants. The major heads have been harvested a long time ago, but I'm still getting side shoots coming up and actually having quite a few meals from the side shoots. It's easier for me to handle than the large heads. I just pick what I need for a meal. And this bed is mostly Brussels sprouts with some dill growing up in the middle. I guess there's a bit of kale over on that end. All that thing there in bloom also, I guess, is a broccoli that I didn't harvest in time. It's gone to flower. But anyway, what I wanted to show you was the Brussels sprouts. I cut the growing ends off of them in late August. And already they're starting to show signs of forming their little Brussels sprouts. So I don't like to pick them until well after we've had several heavy frosts. So I think by the end of October or so they'll be good sized sprouts and ready to go in the freezer. I planted a few nasturtiums in this bed just for added interest. Well, they took over. In the corner here are a couple of zucchini plants. You can see the larger leaves. I didn't plant them until the 15th of July, so far no zucchinis, but there are a number of blossom buds down in there, and I see quite a few female blossom buds where there will be some zucchini, I'm sure, unless we get a very sudden early frost. Also, I wanted to show you my very small beet crop here, but thank you again to the person who told me that it might be a boron deficiency. They weren't growing at all until I gave them boron, and since then they've done quite well. You can see the foliage here. I haven't pulled anything, but I've been down feeling around the base of them, and I have, I don't know, not too much there, maybe 12, 15 beets, but at least I got some beets out of it and have a better idea of what to do next year in order to get some more, I guess. Well, I've harvested enough cucumbers to make one large batch of fermented dill pickles, and they're delicious. They're in the refrigerator. I just bought a second pickle meister, and I think pretty soon I'm going to have enough cucumbers here to make a second batch. I've got lots of dill, as you just saw over in the other garden, and here everywhere I've got cucumbers developing, which is good because I love pickles. Also here I've got a couple of lemon cucumbers, seed that a friend gave me. They're not very prolific, but I do see two, so they'll make an interesting addition to the fermented dill pickles to see a couple of yellow ones in there looking like lemons. Last year I grew ground cherries in this bed where the cucumbers are growing, and they self-seeded. There's quite a number of ground cherry plants with green ground cherries on, no ripe ones yet, but they will ripen even if you have to pick them and take them in the house. They're slow to ripen, but I think there's still plenty of time to get some ground cherries out of this. I really like the things. This is my compost pile squash. I think the variety is some sort of a buttercup squash. Hoping it tastes as good as it looks. I've been watching it grow all summer. Actually, right now, that's the largest one. I think there are 5 altogether on the vine. The top part of the vine in the compost pile has started dying back, but out here, the part that's growing on the lawn is still growing quite well, so stand a chance of getting a few squash out of this patch anyway. That's the Three Sisters bed, which has not been a great success. I actually did get one cob of corn that I managed to cook, and there are several more there right now that so far the coons haven't come back after, but I've noticed that beans are disappearing now, and last night I was out here and saw my wild bunny rabbit that I haven't seen since early in the spring. I know it's the same one. It's been here for years. It's a snowshoe hare that's white in the winter, and they turn brown in summer. And when she turns brown, she has one little white dot right in the middle of her forehead. And I know from past experience she likes beans very well, so I think she's been in there eating my beans. There are a few small pumpkins. I don't know if I've seen a squash in there or not. There was one squash growing, hanging out of a shrub, and something cut off the vine, so of course that died. I guess that's one of the pumpkins. They're a pie pumpkin, and not supposed to be terribly large, but I don't think they're supposed to be this small either. But anyway, they're starting to turn orange, and there are several, maybe 5 or 6 in the bed, so I'm getting something out of the Three Sisters garden. Not a lot, but I'm going to get something out of it. There's a couple of the corn cobs that are still growing in there. The tassels haven't really come fully out, or something's eaten them off, one or the other, so perhaps I may get some corn if the coon doesn't come back for another inspection. Well, to finish this off, just a little look at what's happening inside the hoop house. I've harvested my garlic. I had 2 varieties of hardneck garlic. That one there is, I don't know the name of the varieties anymore, but it only has 4 large cloves, almost like an elephant garlic. And the second kind down here is another hardneck with multiple cloves. The heads aren't as big as I had last year, but there's enough garlic there to do me for many months. I probably won't get it all eaten before it spoils. I continue to be fascinated with the way these plants are growing in here. They were planted from little seedlings on the 22nd of August, and this is the 2nd day of September, so it's amazing the amount that they have grown from tiny little 2-leaf seedlings in that length of time. This end is all brassicas. There's a mixture of broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, and kale. And oh yeah, down here more Brussels sprouts. I don't know if there's really a chance of Brussels sprouts actually getting a chance to form in here in what's left of the season. I don't know how long I can keep this going in the cold weather, but I think I have hopes of maybe getting some broccoli or maybe even some small cabbages anyway. And I have two varieties of grapevines that I've planted in here. This one is called Somerset, and I was reading the other night on it. I didn't realize even that I had bought a seedless variety. This is a seedless red table grape. I suspect it'll be at least 2 years, maybe 3 years before I see any grapes. I got to put up a wire system to train it to next year, but I'm glad it's a seedless one. I think with my dehydrator I'll be turning most of those into raisins if it produces. And behind that are the tiny little basil plants, but they were just single leaves when I planted them, and they really are developing quite fast in here. Here we have rhubarb chard, Swiss chard, and that's the second grapevine. The variety is Beta. It's a Concord type of grape, but hardier than the Concord vine itself. Supposed to be very hardy, particularly for this area. Behind it is spinach, and so far so good. Spinach always bolts on me, and I was giving this a very close inspection yesterday. I don't see where it's bolting at all, so I may actually get some spinach this fall. And then there's the lettuce. 3 different varieties. Well, one was a mesclun mix, and I planted them individually, so I suppose there's half a dozen varieties. And then the next one here is a Cos, a romaine type lettuce, and then there is a butterhead, loose-headed kind of lettuce that hasn't started to head up yet. But again, the growth in the short period of time that they've been in here is amazing. Next to that is more beets. I planted these from seed. Probably weren't planted until around the 24th of August. Well, they germinated and came through the ground very quickly, and now they're starting to grow their second set of leaves. I haven't thinned at all. I only planted 1 seed in each location, but as I'm sure you're aware, what looks like 1 seed in a beet isn't actually. It's a small cluster of seeds. So in most cases there are several plants that come up from 1 seed, but I want them to grow on enough so that I can get some greens when I thin them. And then to close off on this little bed, this is the 2 different kinds of Chinese cabbage. Both are doing very well. I just can't get over how they've grown. The small one on the right here is Joy Choy, which is a miniature bok choy type cabbage, and they've really done well. I did have some slug damage in here. I put out some slug bait and caught them, I guess. There were only 3, and it only really attacked 1 or 2 of the plants and didn't kill them or anything. The other thing that I'm putting in here, you may have noticed in the shots going around here, bundles of drinking straws. Those are traps for earwigs. Earwigs like some place to crawl away in the daytime to hide. But I've been checking these every day, and so far I haven't found any earwigs. If you do find earwigs, you just shake them out into a pail of soapy water, and soap kills the dirty little things. I saw 1 earwig in here. It was trying to get out of here. It was so hot. It was trying to get out through the vent, which has a screen on it, so it couldn't get out. And that's why I put the traps out here, thinking that there may be more. But I checked them every day since they've been out here and haven't found any. So far, so good. The black pearl, capsicum annum, chili peppers continue to grow nicely. And somebody on Flickr, I guess, I put one of my pictures up on Flickr, and somebody who knows quite a bit about these things come back and told me that they're called black pearl because they turn black, almost a dark purple, almost black. And I would have thought that was ripe, but he said no. After they turn black, they eventually turn red, and that's when they're ripe. So I guess I've got a bit of time to go yet, although I do see some down in the background here. See if I can get to them and show you some of the earlier ones that formed on the plant that are starting to turn a very dark color. If you can see those ones there, they sort of have a black or dark brown color on top, so I guess that's the beginning of the ripening process. And the tomato plants that I moved in here that were in smart pots are all doing quite well. I've had a few ripe ones that I've picked, and I see a few more starting to ripen. I think I showed you this a week or so ago. That's the time-lapse garden cam watching this cluster of Buckbee's New ripen. It was a dark green and now it's turned to yellowish green, getting more color on the shoulders. So I guess another week or so those will be ripe and I'll be able to post a video of the time-lapse of them. These are Matt's Wild Cherry. Very small tomato. See if I can get a finger in there to give you an idea. They're not very large at all. Where did I go here? There we are. But they are delicious. They're the sweetest little things. Eat them like candy. I've got to soon stop eating them and save some seed, or I won't have any for next year. Well, that concludes this little update of the garden. Thank you for watching. Leave comments and subscribe if you like. See you later.